inner critic, from foe to friend. We have all experienced this voice within us. When we hear this inner voice, it makes us feel not so good about ourselves. Depends, sometimes this voice is more harsh than other times. And often what happens, this voice can trigger within us feelings, different sorts of feelings. Feelings of inadequacy, feelings of shame, of guilt, self-hatred, judgment, sometimes even anger. And often when this inner voice, this inner critic, or even multiple voices, critical voices, when they made us feel uncomfortable or bad about ourselves, then what we did, or what we do, is we decide to cope with it in different ways. Different sorts of addictions, distractions, to suppress this inner voice so that we don't have to listen to it, to acknowledge it, pay attention to it, whether it's true or not. We don't want to hear it because it makes us feel bad. And so we push it down as much as possible. And we treat it like uninvited guests, someone that we would never want to invite to a dinner party or something. It's like, oh my God, no, like, get away, I don't want to see you. We try to avoid this voice, we try to run away from it, even though this voice is part of us. So in a sense, we are running away from ourselves, parts of ourselves that we don't want to acknowledge, that it's the ones that are painful for us. But what if I told you that we can change, redefine our relationship with our inner critic, and it's possible to have a beneficial relationship with it? The first thing that is beneficial for us to do is to distinguish between the voice of inner critic that is actually serving us well versus the voice that is trying to put us down in the continuous negativity cycle that is self-consuming and that is not serving us and empowering us at all. So we have to distinguish and pay attention and understand, like, is this voice like super unloving and negative and bashing us real hard, or is it perhaps in a form of tough love and discipline that this voice is recognition within ourselves that, hey, there are some negative patterns, or hey, there are some negative behaviors or habits that are not really putting us in an empowered state and place, especially if we want to reach our goals, meet our needs, fulfill our desires and dreams. Then this voice is more like a constructive criticism, not this extreme negativity, which is like, you're a piece of shit, like, who do you think you are, you're nothing, you'll never achieve this, like That's not constructive criticism. You get the point. Like, this is like, this type of voice is here to keep us in this negativity, in this suffering mode, victim mode. It's not helping us at all. In a sense, why am I saying in a sense? Because even this extremely negative voice within us that is bashing us, even that can serve us well, because when we become aware of this type of voice within ourselves and we pay attention and we understand and we are aware in which moments this voice arised, in which conditions and circumstances, like what thought or what situation triggered this voice, what we can then do is we can, instead of like pushing it away and running away from it and just to try to refocus with pure discipline and just overpower it with like pure willpower, as many people do, you're not resolving, you're not giving a resolution in this situation. You're just pushing it down, which is like, eventually it will build up again more resistance. And so instead of doing that, sometimes you might doing that, but instead of doing that all the time, how about you pay attention to this voice and examine, okay, like, where is this coming from? Like, give it some attention. When this extremely negative version of voice is triggered or activated within us, it's just it's a gift in a sense that it gives us opportunity to see and be reminded, there is this part of me that still needs love, that is very self-critical and judgmental. Okay, yeah, I need to pay attention more to this part. All right. And you can ask, what's behind it? Like, why is it acting the way it is? Like, have an internal dialogue with it. Be open to it. Explore it. Acknowledge it. Behind this critical voice, extremely critical voice, there are unmet needs that were not met, usually when we were small children, perhaps even now. So sit with that voice. So in this sense, this voice is also beneficial for us because it indicates parts of us that needs more our love and attention. And sometimes our inner critic will gently remind us, sometimes also in a form of feeling, perhaps of guilt, that we didn't stick to our word, that we scheduled to do something, but we didn't follow up. Something that is aligned with our future goals and dreams. That's okay. No need to immediately destroy ourselves with negativity. It's just, okay. It's like a gentle reminder. Hey, you said you want to achieve this. Okay, you didn't do this. Okay, but if you want to do this, if you want to achieve this, well, you have to be a little bit more disciplined, or you have to embody certain types of new habits, like if you want to play in a different game on another level. Just, there's always trade-offs, like, to be successful you have to be willing to invest something, to trade something out. That's how it is. this type of voice will be less aggressive and just like a friendly reminder. Okay, right. Helps us to stay disciplined. So it's like a friend, doesn't friend, a reminder, whether it's in the form of more gentle variation or more aggressive and more negative. In any case, it just asks us to pay attention how we live, to our habits, to our patterns. Sometimes the more gentle variation of our inner critic will also ask us to be aware of our old limiting patterns showing up. Maybe not as strongly as before, but they are still there, or they want to come back. And then it's our free will and choice to choose. Do we want to allow them to come back or not? Do we want to keep embodying on a consistent basis our new way of being, living, acting, our new identity? Understanding this about this inner critic allowed me to become more compassionate towards myself and also others as well, who are struggling with addictions, different sorts of addictions. Addiction usually is there because there's strong self-judgment, self-hatred, or shame and guilt. It's the way how people cope with these feelings. It's like, that's how it is. And this journey of turning your inner critic from foe to friend can take some time. I remember when, a couple of years ago, I would be more sensitive towards criticism that would come from myself and from other people, because I felt really, really deeply insecure towards myself. And that's why I didn't want to acknowledge criticism at all, whether it was valid or not. And when I did more inner work towards like self-love, self-acceptance, and letting go of the self-negative, dysfunctional thought patterns, over time, I became more compassionate towards myself, and I became less insecure, and I was willing to receive criticism and then distinguish it, whether it was applicable in my case or not at all. So it can take time. That's okay, to heal our insecurities so that we are more open to the criticism and to have a discernment. Is it correct or not really? There are extremes, with inner critic, when the inner critic is so harsh and so negative. And if we believe this voice, it will completely paralyze us and block us from what we actually want to achieve. And then the another extreme is just not believing inner critic at all, like never, it's like, it's another form of extreme to avoid it, to suppress it, and to ignore and pretend that we don't need to change anything at all, that's another unhealthy form of extreme. I've been into both extremes myself, both polarities. It's normal that pendulum swings from one extreme to another, and then we gradually balance out and we find the center that serves us well. Thank you for listening and watching, and I would love to know your experience with your own inner critic. Much love.